It goes by many names: snow, flake, nose, candy, blow. A powder so infamous, it's whispered in lyrics, movies, and headlines. But here's the twist. This modern party drug was once buried with ancient kings. Thousands of years ago, remnants of this mysterious white substance were found in South American mummies, carefully wrapped, ritually preserved. It was once medicine. Later, it was a secret ingredient in over-the-counter tonics. Today, it fuels a black market empire worth billions and leaves a wake of addiction and death in its path. How did something once used to heal turn into something that destroys? What exactly does it do to the body? Why is the first hit described as euphoric, but the last often ends in tragedy? We tend to treat drugs like cocaine as dark myths, dangerous, illegal, untouchable. But the truth is much more complex and far older than we imagine. To truly understand its power, we need to trace its journey. From the green slopes of the Andes, to 19th century pharmacies, to neon-lit bathrooms in the back of nightclubs, this isn't just a story about chemistry. It's about biology, history, and the human craving for escape. So let's unpack the science behind one of the most addictive substances ever discovered. Because to fight something dangerous, we first have to understand it. Imagine your brain as a city, with millions of roads connecting billions of thoughts. Now, picture one of those roads lighting up like fireworks every time you eat your favorite food, laugh with a friend, or finish something difficult. That road is the reward pathway, a biological system designed to keep us alive, motivated, and happy. Cocaine hijacks that road. It doesn't just flip a switch, it overloads the entire grid. At its chemical core, cocaine is part of a group of natural alkaloids derived from the leaves of the coca plant, which grows high in the South American Andes. But when extracted, purified, and refined into a powder, it becomes something else entirely: a powerful central nervous system stimulant. The first time someone uses cocaine, it often feels magical, a sudden surge of energy, confidence flooding in like a tidal wave. Thoughts race. Music feels deeper. You feel unstoppable. For a moment, reality bends into something brighter. But here's the catch. That feeling doesn't last. In fact, it usually fades within 15 to 30 minutes. And the come down is sharp, like jumping from a rooftop with no warning. The brain, overloaded with dopamine, struggles to balance itself again. What once felt like euphoria quickly turns to anxiety, restlessness, or even paranoia. And yet, people chase it, again and again. Why is something so brief, so artificial, so fragile, so incredibly addictive? The answer lies not just in the molecule itself, but in how it tricks our biology, rewires our behavior, and alters the most ancient parts of who we are. So to understand this better, we need to get scientific. What exactly happens inside the brain the moment cocaine enters your bloodstream? Let's take a closer look. Imagine a lock, carefully engineered, precise, ancient. Now imagine someone shoving in a skeleton key, forcing it open, overriding its natural order. That's what cocaine does to your brain. Our neurons communicate using chemicals like dopamine, the molecule of reward, motivation, and joy. Under normal conditions, dopamine is released in small bursts when we experience something positive: a good meal, a compliment, a goal achieved. Then it's reabsorbed, keeping things in balance. But cocaine changes the rules. Once in your system, cocaine blocks the recycling of dopamine. The brain's reward pathway becomes flooded, drowning in a chemical high. Neurons are forced to fire again and again, overstimulated. The result? A wave of euphoria so intense it feels almost unreal. Confidence skyrockets, energy explodes, and for a few short minutes, the world becomes electric. But biology doesn't like shortcuts. As dopamine levels crash, the illusion shatters. Users often spiral into anxiety, irritability, or even deep depression. The brain begins to crave that stolen feeling, urging the body to seek it out again and again. That's how addiction starts, not slowly, but violently. In some people, from the very first hit, physically, the body pays the price too. Blood pressure spikes, pupils dilate, heart rate accelerates, the mouth goes dry. Users might grind their teeth unconsciously, leading to cracked enamel and inflamed gums. Snorting the powder erodes nasal tissues, sometimes so severely that the cartilage collapses. Repeated use leads to frequent nosebleeds and, in extreme cases, tissue death. Those who inject cocaine face even greater risks: collapsed veins, infections, sepsis, or sudden heart attacks. The drug moves fast, but its damage runs deeper and lasts longer. And strangely, this isn't new. Cocaine was once glorified. In the 1802, it was sold in medicinal tonics to treat exhaustion, toothaches, and even impotence. Vin Mariani, a wine infused with cocaine, was endorsed by royalty and popes. Coca-Cola's original formula? It contained cocaine. Even Sherlock Holmes, yes, the fictional detective, was depicted injecting it for mental stimulation. From pharmacies to fiction, from healing elixir to street drug, cocaine's story has always been one of transformation. But how did something once praised become so feared? To answer that, we need to follow its shadow into the streets where the high meets its harshest truth. Cocaine has many faces, but one of its most dangerous is its cheaper, smokable cousin, crack. Born from the same molecule, crack cocaine is made by cooking powdered cocaine with baking soda and water, transforming it into hardened rocks. These can be smoked directly, no needles, no lines, just a quick inhale. Within seconds, the user is swept into a dizzying high, faster and more intense than its powdered form. But that speed comes with a brutal cost. The lungs burn. The glass pipes blister lips and fingers. The high fades quickly, leaving behind a hunger that bites harder each time. It's not just addictive, it's explosively so. And in the 1982nd, it didn't just tear through bodies, it tore through communities. Crack flooded low-income neighborhoods, especially in urban America. It was cheap, accessible, and fast. Everything powdered cocaine wasn't I'm day, but instead of empathy, society responded with fear. The term crack baby became a media obsession. Headlines painted children of addicted mothers as doomed, destined for intellectual disability, violence, and failure. But years later, science revealed a different story. While prenatal drug exposure is never ideal, the effects of crack were wildly exaggerated. Nicotine and alcohol posed far more significant risks. The real damage came not from biology, but from stigma layered with racism, poverty, and public hysteria. And that wasn't the only shadow. As cocaine moved from clubs to corners, users began mixing it with other substances. Heroin and cocaine formed the infamous speedball, a chemical tug-of-war between stimulation and sedation. It felt powerful, but it killed fast. Celebrities like River Phoenix and John Belushi paid the price. Even combining cocaine with alcohol is dangerous. Inside the liver, the two create cocaethylene, a compound that increases the high but also skyrockets the risk of heart failure. And today, a new threat creeps in unnoticed. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, has contaminated cocaine supplies through shared equipment, cross-packing, or careless mixing. Just a few grains can shut down breathing, and users often don't even know it's there. What began as a stimulant of kings and chemists has become a public health minefield where every hit could be your last. But if the risks are this clear, why do people still keep coming back? To answer that, we need to look deeper not just into chemistry, but into the human need that drives it. Here's the strange part. For a drug so powerful, cocaine leaves behind surprisingly few physical withdrawal symptoms. No violent convulsions, no unbearable vomiting. No days of agonizing cramps like with heroin or alcohol detox. In fact, some users report that quitting feels almost manageable. But that's where the real trap lies. Because cocaine doesn't claw at the body, it burrows into the mind. When someone stops using, their brain, once flooded with dopamine, now feels like a dry, silent cavern. Joy becomes distant. Motivation evaporates. Everyday tasks feel meaningless. Anxiety creeps in. Sleep becomes fragmented. And worst of all, hope feels out of reach. That's because cocaine doesn't just disrupt pleasure, it rewires how the brain expects to feel it. It numbs natural rewards. Music no longer lifts. Conversations feel flat. Life loses color. This is why recovery is so difficult. Not because the drug still lingers in the bloodstream, but because the brain has to rebuild its own ability to experience happiness from scratch. And that takes time. Weeks, months, sometimes years. The most effective treatments focus not on punishing the addict, but on rebuilding the human. Therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, helps users recognize triggers, reshape thinking patterns, and navigate cravings. Support groups provide the one thing cocaine can never replace: connection, a reminder that you're not alone, even when your mind tries to convince you otherwise. Still, recovery isn't a straight path. Many relapse, sometimes more than once. All it takes is a moment of loneliness, a memory, or a single night of just this once. But every relapse is not failure, it's part of the process. Each time a person returns to recovery, their brain continues healing, like a muscle slowly regaining strength. Cocaine may promise instant joy, but healing takes patience. And ironically, it's that patience, the slow rebuilding of life's real rewards, that brings lasting peace. So if recovery is possible, and we understand the risks, what stops society from solving this problem altogether? The answer lies in something much more complex than chemistry. It lies in how we see ourselves. Cocaine doesn't ask for your background. It doesn't care about your paycheck, your playlist, or your past. It doesn't check if you're a student, a CEO, a parent, or a performer. All it takes is one moment, one line, one yes. And for some, that's all it ever takes. The danger of cocaine isn't just in its chemistry, it's in its disguise. It wears the face of glamour, success, rebellion, even relief. It promises escape but delivers emptiness. It doesn't arrive with a warning label or a flashing red light. It whispers, subtle, friendly, almost harmless, until it isn't. Because the truth is, one decision made in seconds can alter an entire lifetime. The spiral might be fast or slow, visible or hidden, but the impact is real. Families fracture, dreams dissolve, lives unravel. And yet, there is hope. People do recover. They rebuild. They reconnect. They find meaning again through therapy, through support, through persistence. Some emerge from the depths stronger, wiser, more compassionate than before. But not everyone gets that second chance. This isn't a story about judging those who fall. It's a reminder to look closer, to understand what drives the craving, to see past the stigma, and to choose not perfection, but awareness. In the end, cocaine doesn't make you feel alive. It just makes you forget you're not. So maybe the real question isn't, how do we fight cocaine? But what are we missing that makes people turn to it in the first place? And if we answered that question honestly, maybe fewer lives would be lost before they ever had the chance to begin. If this video made you think even for a moment, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like, comment, and subscribe to Inner Mind Nut for more science that speaks to the soul. Your one click could change someone's life.